Tonight, a driving instructor who pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting underage girls that were students learned his fate in court. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
And I'm Steve Price. In tonight for Carlo Cicchetto, a judge sentenced Joe Banks to 5 years in prison. CBS 8's Brian White was in the courtroom, and he joins us now live from Vista with more. Brian, did any of the victims speak during today's hearing?
Yes, Steve, it was emotional in court as young victims and their families stood up to Joe Banks and the abuse he imposed on them, standing strong while also admitting how much damage he inflicted on them.
I'm the one that had to hold her when she cries. I'm the one that has to lift her up. And I'm the one that has to tell her, don't be a victim and don't let him have your time.
A mother of one of the underage victims holding back tears. The judge ordering us not to show her on camera while she read her daughter's words.
While I refuse to act like the victim you made me, you now live with the labels you cannot escape. You are a child molester, a pedophile, and a criminal.
In July, before his preliminary hearing, 51-year-old Robert Joseph Banks pled guilty to 11 counts, 5 of those felonies, including possession of child pornography and sexual battery of a minor. Deputy District Attorney Casey French says he touched the young girls inappropriately while they were driving.
They're driving on the freeway, they're driving on the Strand, which is a crowded street, and he's choosing these opportunities to accomplish his crimes.
According to the prosecution, in May of 2023, he was warned by the American Driving School in El Cajon that his conduct was in violation of their policy, and they placed a dash cam in the car. But this didn't stop his behavior. He installed his own camera underneath the steering wheel in order to record the private areas of his students. One mother recalls trying to ride along for the test, but he wouldn't let her.
He said it had to be like the DMV test where parents were not allowed. Well, the DMV test does not include molesting my child. The DMV test does not include inappropriate conduct or videos
or anything of what he did to any of these girls.
The judge sentenced Banks to the maximum of 5 years in prison and required him to register as a sex offender. One of the 18 victims spoke out in court.
He may have taken my vulnerable ability to trust in the belief that all people are simply good. However, I have learned to stand up for myself and others.
The judge signed criminal protective orders for each of the 18 victims, and that means Banks is not to have any contact with any of them for at least 10 years. Reporting live at the Vista Courthouse, Brian White, CBS 8.
All right, we are just about an hour or so away from the start of a game that could guarantee the Padres a spot in the postseason. They just need to beat LA at least once in this series to solidify their spot.
And a lot of Friar fans are hoping that happens tonight. That includes CBS 8's Jake Garriani, who is live up at Dodger Stadium right now with more on what's at stake in tonight's game. Jake?
Marcella, Steve, this is what it is all about. Two of the great rivals in this game fighting for the postseason. The Padres are 3 games out of the NL West title, and they have a 3-game set against the Dodgers. The Padres also hold the tiebreaker, so San Diego has every opportunity to win the division, but first things first, might as well just get in the postseason, right? They can do that with a win tonight in Los Angeles. A win in any point of this series will get them into the postseason. There's also a scenario in which the Padres could back into the postseason. But, you know, let's just go beat those boys in blue instead and pop champagne tonight. Now, if you rewind all the way back to Seoul, South Korea, there isn't a person outside of that clubhouse that thought the San Diego Padres would be in this position. They cut their payroll by almost $100 million. They traded away one of the best players in all of baseball in Juan Soto. They didn't know who 2/3 of the outfield was going to be. There were so many questions as this Padres team entered the season, and yet here they are under first-year manager with the Padres, Mike Shildt, who has done a perfect job of leading this team. We just got done listening to Mike Shildt talk about how no game is bigger than the games they have set up for themselves. They have decided to stay even keel all year long. Nothing will change going into the series. So while all of us are amped up and excited, the Padres see this as any other game. Earlier, before the game, we got to talk with Joe Musgrove. I asked him about those expectations. This is what he had to say.
Everyone's really contributed very well, but our expectation coming into the season is always, you know, get yourselves into the playoffs and make a run at the championship. But I think we're surprising a lot of people when you look at what we did, you know, money-wise and backing off on the opportunity to land Soto for a long-term deal. I think, it set our team up for, more success, more well-rounded success. We were hurting in the starting pitching department. We ended up getting some really good arms back for Soto in that trade. So yeah, expectation-wise, I think we all expected to be where we're at right now.
I mean, Joe is so honest, and he's so right. Would every team in Major League Baseball love to have Juan Soto on their team? Of course, but the Padres became more well-rounded when they brought in pieces in that trade, when they brought in Michael King, and they got Dylan Cease in that trade after flipping Drew Thorpe. So this team is really built well. Obviously, the bullpen that A.J. Preller built, this team is made for the postseason. Now they just got to get in it. Might as well do it tonight, right?
Well, and can we also talk about the job Jurickson Profar has done? I mean, I don't think anybody expected him to be what he is, but we sure are glad he is.
Oh, yes.
And it is funny you bring that up. $1 million for Jurickson Profar to play for the Padres this year. And you remember on this very field that I'm standing on, Will Smith, the catcher for the Dodgers, called Jurickson Profar irrelevant. Well, he is the furthest thing from irrelevant. The Padres would not be where they are without Jurickson Profar, and it would be fun to see him make quite a splash in this series as the Padres try and hunt down those Dodgers. First pitch in just a little bit here, 7:10. It'll be Landon Knack against Michael King, who came over in the Juan Soto trade.
All right, thanks so much, Jake. Sometimes that's all you need is someone to say something negative about you, to light that fire under you, prove them wrong. Let's hope Padres can prove all those people wrong tonight with the big win. Thanks, Jake.
Let's go Padres. Jake, thank you. And stay with us as the Padres continue their push for the playoffs. We'll have all the updates posted on CBS8.com. You can also follow us on social media or download our free CBS 8 app. School districts all across California must come up with a plan to limit or even ban cell phone usage in schools by July of 2026.
This after the governor signed the Phone-Free School Act yesterday. This new law does allow students to have access to their phones during emergencies, but how districts and charter schools decide to shape the rest of the policy is up to them. We spoke with multiple parents today who say they want their kids to always have access to their phones in school.
I think that kids should have their phones at school because as a parent, I believe that having a phone with my son, I feel a little safer if something happens, especially with all the shootings going on in USA.
Other parents told us they like the new law and think teachers should focus on teaching students rather than taking away their phones. You can read more about the law on our website at CBS8.com.
Tonight, we are getting new insight into the lengths drug cartels will go to smuggle fentanyl into the U.S. from Mexico, including using teenagers. Federal authorities have previously called San Diego the epicenter of fentanyl trafficking. It's a drug that kills 70,000 Americans every year. They hide it in trunks, indoors, in the firewall around the dashboard. Fentanyl smuggled into San Diego by cartels in Mexico.
They'll put it in the gas tanks, hoping that the gasoline will mask the smell from the canines. They'll put it within, we've seen when they smuggle narcotics within car seats. There's nothing that's sacred, so I mean, they'll put it in the diaper of children. Eric Laverne, Special Operations Supervisor with Border Patrol San Diego Sector, says his agents have seen it all, including a disturbing trend of high schoolers and even middle schoolers being used as mules. They tell these kids, hey, you're not 18 yet. Even if they arrest you, you won't be in trouble. And that's just not the truth. You know, that this a felony arrest for smuggling of narcotics, that follows you for life. That's a serious charge. 2/3 of the people arrested smuggling fentanyl are American citizens paid by the cartels, and a lot of that smuggling comes through here, the border entry in San Ysidro.
In the San Diego field office, we're seeing 200,000 people a day. Every one of these 200,000 people is presenting themselves as a legitimate traveler.
60 Minutes' Bill Whitaker just reported on the problem this past Sunday with the Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, who showed Bill a seizure vault packed with pills. They confiscated 27,000 pounds of fentanyl in fiscal year 2023. And then there are the pills they don't intercept.
Every single week, we lose 22 teens between the ages of 14 and 18.
Every week.
Every single week, we're basically losing a high school class.
They're made to look like regulated prescription drugs, but local agents make it clear they are anything but a professionally created product.
when you look at these pills that are being made in Mexico, there's no chemist, there's no regulation. The smugglers are just mixing chemicals together. So yes, you may take one pill and be fine. You may take one pill and die immediately.
Last year, fentanyl killed more than 70,000 people across the country. And the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner says he needs more officers and agents to help fight the influx of drugs. In the meantime, officials are hoping that parents will talk with their kids about the dangers of fentanyl.
So eye-opening. Thanks, Steve. The County Board of Supervisors is approving a series of actions to help improve emergency psychiatric care. They're partnering with UC San Diego to expand the region's behavioral health beds. It will be at the East Campus Medical Center, which was formerly known as Alvarado Hospital. The expansion will include a crisis stabilization unit, an acute psychiatric facility, and an emergency psychiatric facility. It will also include at least 30 inpatient beds. The goal is to make these beds available to our region's most vulnerable population.
It's going to be set aside for individuals that are on Medicaid and that are on our streets and are really the most vulnerable part of our community. And so the entire structure of how we're financing this is it's going to be financed through Medicaid drawdown dollars.
It's expected these expanded services will be available by next year.